The legendary hero was born the alien Queen Tremble. The sun had barely risen over the desert plains of Violia, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red. Eli, he walked slowly, feeling the rough sand shift beneath his boots. He had always been drawn to the ruins that dotted the edge of the colony. They were old, ancient beyond anyone's memory, and they whispered secrets in the wind that only he seemed to hear. His curiosity had always been stronger than his fear. Today, however, something felt different. There was an energy in the air, faint but undeniable, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Eli approached one of the larger structures, a half-collapsed dome that seemed to pulse with a subtle light. It was not like anything the colony's scientists had catalogued. The walls were covered in symbols that glimmered faintly, almost as if reacting to his presence. He traced a finger across one of the carvings, feeling a hum beneath his touch. A shiver ran down his spine, but not from cold. Something was awakening. The air around him seemed charged, vibrating with a silent power. Suddenly, a bright flash burst from the dome, forcing Eli to stumble backward. The ground beneath him rumbled as if the planet itself were speaking. From the shadows of the ruined structure, a hidden mechanism revealed itself, rising slowly like a giant metal flower. Panels slid open and lights blinked with a strange rhythm, casting eerie shadows across the sand. Eli could feel the hum growing stronger, filling his chest with a mixture of awe and fear. His instincts screamed for him to run, but curiosity anchored him in place. He reached for his communicator, trying to call the colony, but the device crackled uselessly. Whatever this was, it was blocking signals. The hum became a low, resonant sound that vibrated through his bones. Then, with a suddenness that made him gasp, a holographic projection sprang from the center of the mechanism. It was not human. The figure was tall, regal, and shimmering in colors that his eyes could barely comprehend. It moved with grace, its form shifting like liquid, yet its presence was commanding. He realized, with a mixture of fear and wonder, that it was sending a message, an ancient warning perhaps, or a call to someone destined to hear it. Eli felt the weight of destiny pressing down on him. He had always known he was different. He had skill with machines that no one could explain, strength and agility that defied training, and an instinct for danger that had saved him more times than he could count. But he had never understood why. As he watched the alien projection, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter, pieces of a long-forgotten legacy began to align in his mind. He was not just a curious boy from a small colony. He was the heir to something far older, something that even the stars remembered. In the distance, a shimmer broke the horizon. Eli squinted, seeing streaks of light moving through the sky. At first, he thought it was a meteor shower, but the speed and precision were wrong. They moved in formation, gliding silently toward the planet. His heart pounded as the realization hit him. They were ships. Alien ships. Eli knew stories of distant empires, legends told in hushed voices about rulers who commanded fleets of unimaginable power. Among them was the most feared of all, the alien queen, Zyra, she, whose name alone sent civilizations into panic. And somehow, through whatever signal he had unwittingly triggered, she had sensed him. He tried to gather his thoughts, to make sense of what had just happened, but the rumble beneath his feet grew louder. The dome's mechanism released a pulse of energy, creating a small shockwave that lifted sand into the air. Eli covered his eyes as the wind whipped against his face. When he looked again, he saw shapes moving across the dunes. They were scouting vessels, sleek and dark, scanning the horizon with eyes of light that pierced the sandstorm. Eli ducked behind a rock, his mind racing. The colony was unprepared. No one could withstand the might of the alien scouts. And yet, he knew instinctively that running was not an option. He had to face whatever was coming, even if he didn't fully understand why. He crept back toward the ruins, moving quietly despite the pounding of his heart. Inside, the dome's interior had changed. The symbols now formed patterns, glowing in sequences that made his pulse quicken. He realized they were not random. They were instructions, a map of sorts, left for someone like him. As he studied the walls, his fingers brushing over the carvings, he felt a surge of energy flow through him. Knowledge filled his mind, not words, but understanding. Machines, strategies, even combat techniques appeared as visions, as if centuries of human ingenuity had been distilled into him in a single moment. He staggered back, overwhelmed by the sudden gift, but also emboldened. He could not explain it, but he knew he was meant to protect his people, to stand against the forces that were coming. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement. Shadows shifted unnaturally. Eli tensed, readying himself. The air seemed to thicken, charged with anticipation. And then he heard a voice, not loud but echoing inside his mind. It was commanding, elegant, and powerful. He could not understand the words, yet the meaning was clear. The queen had acknowledged him. She feared him, though she had never seen him. That thought sent a thrill through him and a chill at the same time. Somehow, humanity's bloodline had produced something she could not control. The scouts landed on the dunes, their forms emerging from the sand like predators. Eli had no weapon powerful enough to challenge them directly, but he had something they did not expect: cunning. Using the ruins as cover, he led the scouts on a chase through the maze of collapsed structures. He triggered hidden traps, remnants of the ancient civilization that had once walked Violia. Panels shifted, pits opened, and automated defenses activated. The scouts were skilled, but they were not human. They did not anticipate unpredictability, the instinctive improvisation that Eli embodied. One by one, they were forced to retreat, reporting back to their queen the emergence of a human threat beyond reckoning. As the last scout vanished over the horizon, Eli slumped against a wall, panting. The dome continued to hum softly, its light dimming. He realized the fight was only beginning. The artifact had marked him, changed him, and set him on a path that could either save or destroy humanity. He thought of the colony behind him, small and fragile against the might of a galactic empire, and knew he could not allow them to fall. He was not yet a hero, not in the eyes of the galaxy, but he could feel the stirrings of legend within him. The stars themselves seemed to whisper of his potential. Night fell over Violia, casting long shadows across the desert. The dunes shimmered under the twin moons, and Eli stood alone, gazing at the sky where the alien ships had disappeared. Somewhere out there, the queen was aware of him, her mind filled with worry and anger. He did not know when she would strike or how powerful her fleet truly was. But he knew one thing: humanity had always endured, always adapted, always survived. And now that survival depended on him. He tightened his fists, feeling the resolve within him harden. This was his world, his people, and he would rise to meet whatever threat awaited. Eli returned to the colony before dawn, his mind restless. He did not sleep, not really. Instead, he prepared. He inspected weapons, repaired machines, and studied maps of the desert. Every instinct told him that this was more than a test. It was a summons. And when the first alien fleet finally arrived, humanity would have a champion ready to face them, someone whose courage and ingenuity could turn the tide of the galaxy. He was not just a boy from a distant colony. He was the spark of resistance, the beginning of a legend that even the alien queen would tremble to witness. And somewhere far across the stars, Zyra, she watched, her expression unreadable. Her scouts had reported a human unlike any other, and for the first time she felt a sense of unease. The prophecy, the whispers of a legendary threat, were no longer stories. They were real, and the human was awake. Eli, he moved through the colony at first light, alert and restless. The desert wind had softened to a gentle hum, but his mind raced with thoughts of the artifact and the alien ships. He knew the scouts would not forget what they had seen, and their reports would reach the queen, Zyra, she. Every instinct in his body screamed that the next wave would be stronger, faster, and deadlier. Humans had survived countless challenges on Violia, but nothing had prepared them for an interstellar empire with weapons beyond comprehension. He walked past the modest homes and workshops of the colony, nodding to those who worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the sandstorms and minor skirmishes. They did not know the true threat approaching, yet they trusted him. That trust both lifted and burdened him. Eli entered the central hub, a simple building filled with computers, monitors, and the faint smell of oil and dust. He had spent nights here, studying the maps of the planet, the dunes, and the ruins, trying to find an advantage. If the alien fleet was coming, he needed a plan. The colony council gathered as he entered, their faces pale but determined. Their leader, Mara, she, a woman of quiet strength and unwavering resolve, spoke first. Eli, the scouts are returning. Our sensors pick up movement near the horizon. They know something is here. What do we do? Her voice trembled slightly, betraying fear she refused to show. Eli could understand her worry. The scouts had weapons beyond imagination, and the Queen's army was legendary. He took a deep breath and spoke calmly, though his mind raced. "We can't fight them head-on, not yet. We have to use what we have, our knowledge of the land, our machines, and our instincts. The ruins, they hold more than just energy. They hold strategies, traps, and technology that the scouts do not understand." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We fight smart, not strong. If we use the terrain, the ruins, and everything we've learned, we can make them hesitate. We can survive long enough to prepare for what comes next." Mara nodded slowly, her eyes filled with renewed determination. "Then we follow your lead, Eli. Whatever you say, we do." The first alien scouts appeared in the distance as the sun climbed higher. They were sleek, metallic, and silent, their forms cutting through the sky like dark knives. Eli could see the faint glow of sensors scanning the landscape, searching for anything unusual. He led a small team to the outer ruins, positioning them carefully among rocks, collapsed walls, and hidden crevices. Every piece of machinery he touched seemed to respond, as if recognizing the legacy coursing through him. Traps were set, devices activated, and hidden signals sent to alert the colony of any movement. The scouts landed with mechanical grace, their legs and claws spreading across the dunes. Eli crouched behind a jagged wall, his pulse quickening. The scouts advanced, scanning every inch of the terrain, confident in their superior strength. But they underestimated humans. At the precise moment Eli signaled, the traps activated. Nets sprang, energy pulses emitted blinding light, and sand kicked up in blinding clouds. The scouts staggered, their sensors overwhelmed, and a few were forced back, retreating with sharp mechanical screeches. Eli felt a surge of pride. For the first time, humanity had shown them that they were not powerless, yet he knew this was only the beginning. Zyra, she, the alien queen, would not take this lightly. The scouts were only her eyes. Soon the real force would arrive. He returned to the colony, inspecting weapons and helping repair vehicles. Every human being contributed in some way, from engineers maintaining the defensive drones to farmers carrying supplies and food. Eli realized something important. Strength was not only in weapons, but in people, in their unity, and in their courage. Humanity's resilience was more than instinct. It was a force that could not be calculated. Late in the day, Eli stood on the highest dune, looking toward the horizon where the sun touched the sand. There was a strange stillness in the air. The scouts had disappeared, but he felt their presence lingering, a warning unspoken yet understood. He was not alone in feeling the pressure of destiny. The artifact, now quiet but still glowing faintly, pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Eli understood it was more than a machine. It was a guide, a teacher, a key to powers humans had almost forgotten. As night fell, a sudden streak of light cut across the sky. Eli squinted. It was not one ship, but a small fleet, moving faster than any human craft could hope to achieve. Their formation was precise, perfect, like a deadly dance choreographed across the stars. The humans gasped at the sight. Mara placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "It's them," she whispered. "The queen herself?" Eli did not answer. He only stared, calculating and strategizing in his mind. He knew the queen's fleet was immense. Her warriors were skilled and ruthless, but he also knew something she did not. Humans could improvise, adapt, and endure. That unpredictability was a weapon no machine could fully counter. The fleet descended, dark shadows blotting out the stars. Eli led a team to the outer rim of the colony, where the terrain was rugged, filled with jagged rocks and steep ridges. "We lure them here," he said. "We make them fight where they are uncomfortable, where our minds and our traps matter more than their strength." The first attack was sudden and violent. Energy blasts streaked across the dunes, scorching the ground and setting sand alight. The humans moved with practiced precision, ducking, rolling, and firing improvised weapons. Drones whirred above, emitting pulses to confuse the alien sensors. Eli coordinated each move, his voice steady, giving commands that were almost instinctual. He had never been trained formally, yet every decision was perfect. Humans had always been clever, and now that cleverness was a weapon. Amid the chaos, Eli noticed a scout trying to flank them from the side. Without thinking, he sprinted across open sand, dodging blasts that could tear a human apart, and activated a hidden energy grid. The grid emitted a pulse that knocked the scout off balance, sending it crashing into the dunes. His team watched in awe. Eli, he was not only a leader but a force that inspired courage and hope. Hours passed, and the alien fleet withdrew temporarily, scanning the battlefield from orbit. Eli and the colony had survived, but the cost was visible. Burned sand, broken machinery, and exhausted people reminded everyone that the enemy was still stronger. Yet hope glimmered. For the first time, the humans realized they could resist. That night, Eli walked alone to the ruins again. The artifact glowed faintly in the darkness. He reached out and felt its energy flow into him, visions of ancient humans and their battles filling his mind. He saw strategies, alliances, and techniques that had been forgotten over centuries. He realized that humanity's past held secrets powerful enough to challenge even the might of an alien queen. The following day, he shared his vision with the council. Maps were drawn, plans made, and traps prepared. Humans worked tirelessly, motivated by Eli's unwavering resolve. Every child, farmer, engineer, and warrior contributed in some way, knowing that the colony's survival depended on unity and courage. Eli's influence was not about fear or power. It was about inspiring people to realize their own strength. Meanwhile, far across the stars, Zyra, she watched. Her mind was sharp, calculating, and filled with anger. The reports of human resistance reached her, and she frowned. No species had ever defied her scouts so effectively, let alone without even seeing the full power of her fleet. Eli had made himself known to her, and for the first time, the alien queen trembled, not from defeat, but from the recognition of a threat that could grow into something far greater than she had imagined. Back on Violia, Eli trained through the nights, perfecting tactics and learning every secret the ruins could reveal. He knew that the queen would not stop with scouts. Her main fleet would come, and humanity would have to be ready. Yet he did not despair. Humans had always faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. That resilience was now his greatest weapon. Days passed, each one more tense than the last. The alien scouts returned sporadically, probing defenses and testing human patience. Each encounter was a lesson, each retreat a strategic advantage. Eli's mind sharpened with every skirmish. He understood not only the enemy's technology but their psychology, their reliance on patterns, their inability to fully predict human unpredictability. The colony began to see Eli as more than a leader. He was a symbol. Children whispered stories of his courage, engineers marveled at his understanding of the artifact, and soldiers followed his every command with renewed faith. Hope was alive, glowing brighter than any weapon the aliens could bring. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the desert, Eli stood on a ridge overlooking the ruins. He felt the hum of the artifact in his chest, felt the energy of the planet beneath his feet, and saw the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the queen planned her next move, yet he was ready. He did not know what the next day would bring or how many battles lay ahead, but he knew this: humanity would not fall quietly. They would fight, adapt, and endure. And he, Eli, would lead them, for he was the spark that had awakened, the first light of a legend that would shake even the alien queen herself. The desert wind whispered through the ruins, carrying a silent promise. The battle had begun, but this was only the beginning of a story that stretched across the stars. Eli's heart beat with determination, and humanity held its breath. For the first time, the humans of Violia truly believed that they could face the darkness and win. The sun had barely touched the horizon when Eli, he, climbed the highest ridge overlooking the desert. The colony below was alive with preparation. Drones hummed as they patrolled the perimeter, engineers adjusted energy shields, and soldiers ran drills under the fading light. Eli's eyes scanned the distant sky, searching for any sign of the alien fleet. He had learned patience over the past days, but the weight of anticipation pressed heavily on him. Every instinct told him that Zyra, she was watching, waiting, and planning. He turned to Mara, she, who stood beside him, her face calm but lined with worry. "How are the defenses?" he asked. "They are ready," she replied. "But even with traps and shields, we are humans against a galactic power. The Queen's fleet is beyond anything we've faced." Eli nodded, understanding her fear. He had no illusions. The fleet would be vast, the weapons deadly, and the soldiers merciless. Yet he felt a surge of resolve. Humans had survived worse. They had adapted when all odds were against them, and now they had him. He was no longer a boy from a small colony. He was a symbol, a spark that could ignite hope across the stars. As night fell, the first streaks of alien light appeared. This time it was not scouts alone. The fleet arrived, a shadow stretching across the horizon, silent yet overwhelming. Their ships moved with precise coordination, cutting through the darkness like predators. The colony trembled at the sight, but Eli stood firm. He raised his hand, signaling his team to hold positions. "Wait for my mark. We strike together, not scattered," he commanded. The alien ships descended, energy beams carving lines through the dunes. Humans fired back with whatever weapons they had, lasers, plasma rifles, and improvised cannons. Eli watched as many of the projectiles failed to pierce the alien shields. He clenched his fists, knowing brute force alone could not win this battle. Strategy, not strength, would decide their survival. He activated the ruins' hidden network. The artifact's energy flowed through the ancient machines, creating electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the aliens' sensors. A few ships staggered, their formations breaking. Eli's team seized the opportunity, striking with speed and precision. Humans moved with agility, using the terrain to their advantage, dodging energy blasts and striking where the aliens least expected. The queen, Zyra, she observed from her command ship, her eyes narrowing. Her fleet had underestimated the humans. One colony, barely equipped, had challenged her scouts with traps and cunning. She felt a flicker of unease. Eli, he had not only survived, but he had adapted, learning from each encounter. There was intelligence in his tactics, unpredictability in his movements, and courage that shone like a beacon. She clenched her hands. No species had ever shown her such audacity. Eli led a small strike team toward the central dune, where the largest alien ship had landed. The craft was enormous, its hull sleek and menacing. He knew they could not destroy it directly, but they could disrupt it, slow it down, and buy time for the colony. Using the ruins' energy grid, he activated a sequence that sent a concentrated pulse toward the ship. Sparks flew as systems malfunctioned. The humans pressed their advantage, weaving between beams of light and energy, dodging mechanical claws, and setting off localized explosions. One of the alien soldiers broke through a trap, moving toward Eli with lethal speed. He barely had time to react. Using his instinct and agility, Eli vaulted over the creature, rolling across the sand and striking a control panel with a well-placed shot. A burst of energy threw the alien back. Eli breathed heavily but did not stop. The fight was relentless, and every moment mattered. In the colony, Mara coordinated defensive teams, firing at incoming drones and tending to the wounded. Humans worked as one, inspired by Eli's courage. Children were kept safe in underground shelters, while every able-bodied adult contributed. The artifact's energy pulsed through the ruins, amplifying their efforts, providing guidance in ways they could barely understand. Hours passed in a blur of light, sand, and noise. The alien fleet began to retreat, staggered and disoriented. Eli had turned their advantage into vulnerability. He did not celebrate. The Queen would return, stronger and more determined. He knew that their victory today was temporary. Every human life saved was a small triumph, a reminder that courage could defy even the greatest power. After the battle, Eli walked among the colony, helping wherever he could. He patched wounds, repaired machines, and comforted those who were shaken. The people looked at him not only with gratitude, but with hope. Hope was a weapon stronger than any cannon, stronger than shields or fleets. Eli understood this more clearly than ever. Humans had something the Queen did not: adaptability, courage, and the willingness to risk everything for each other. That night under the twin moons, Eli returned to the ruins. The artifact glowed faintly, as if acknowledging his efforts. He placed his hands on its surface, feeling knowledge and power flow into him. Ancient humans, long gone, seemed to whisper through his mind, guiding him. He saw visions of battles, strategies, and tools that could aid his people. He realized that humanity's past held secrets powerful enough to challenge even a galactic empire. While he trained, studied, and prepared, Zyra, she convened her council aboard her flagship. Her face was cold and unreadable, yet her mind was sharp, calculating. Reports from scouts and soldiers confirmed what she had feared. Eli was no ordinary human. He was clever, brave, and resilient. A leader unlike any she had faced. Her claws tightened on the armrest of her throne. The prophecy of the legendary threat was no longer a warning in stories. It was real. She activated a subspace communicator, sending orders to her fleet. "Prepare the main force," she commanded. "This human has awakened something dangerous. We cannot underestimate them again." Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. Back on Vierlia, Eli knew the Queen's forces would return, and soon. He spent the following days reinforcing defenses, coordinating patrols, and testing traps. Every day, he trained, pushing himself beyond the limits of human endurance. He worked with engineers to modify drones, soldiers to optimize their formations, and civilians to understand evacuation routes and emergency measures. The colony was small, but it was becoming a fortress of ingenuity and determination. One evening, Eli stood on the highest ridge, watching the stars. The artifact's energy pulsed through him, aligning with his heartbeat. He understood something profound. Survival depended not only on weapons, but on intelligence, courage, and unity. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and resourceful. They could fight in ways no alien could anticipate, and he, Eli, would guide them. The calm was shattered by a sudden streak of light cutting through the sky. Scouts or another wave of the fleet, Eli could not tell, but he acted without hesitation. He signaled the colony, and humans moved into position with practiced precision. Traps activated, drones flew into the air, and energy shields hummed to life. The alien forces were relentless, but Eli's planning and intuition gave humans the upper hand. By dawn, the alien fleet retreated once more, leaving the colony battered but alive. He surveyed the aftermath. Sand was scorched, machines damaged, and the ground littered with debris. Yet humans were alive, their spirit unbroken. Mara approached him, exhaustion etched into her features. "You did it again," she said softly. "They will not forget today." Eli shook his head. "We survived, yes, but the Queen will return stronger. We have bought time, but the real test is yet to come." He looked toward the horizon, toward the dark expanse of space where the Queen's forces awaited. Fear was present, but determination burned brighter. Humanity had stood against impossible odds and survived. He returned to the ruins, where the artifact's glow was steady and warm. He placed his hands on it again, feeling guidance, strength, and ancient knowledge fill him. He understood that humans were not powerless. They were adaptable, courageous, and relentless. And now, humanity had a champion, someone who could unite them, teach them, and inspire them to rise against a threat that spanned the stars. Weeks passed, each one filled with training, preparation, and small skirmishes. Eli honed his skills, learning to read the alien tactics, anticipate their movements, and exploit weaknesses. He taught the colony to do the same. Every encounter strengthened them, sharpened their minds, and hardened their resolve. Then one night, as the twin moons bathed the desert in silver light, Eli sensed it. The Queen's fleet was coming, larger than before, with ships that could crush mountains. But Eli did not flinch. He had prepared his people, and he had learned that even the mightiest enemy could falter against courage, intelligence, and unity. Humanity's spark was alive, and it would shine brighter than any star in the galaxy. Eli stood on the ridge, gazing at the horizon. Somewhere far beyond, she prepared her forces, aware that this human had become something she could not ignore. He felt the weight of destiny pressing down, yet he welcomed it. The battles ahead would be dangerous, perhaps deadly. But he was ready. He was no longer a boy from a distant colony. He was the spark of a legend, a force that would shake even the alien Queen, and he would lead humanity to meet its greatest challenge yet. The desert of Vierlia was silent, almost as if the planet itself held its breath. He stood at the edge of the colony, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the alien fleet appeared like a wall of dark metal and light. The twin moons cast long shadows across the sand, giving the battlefield an eerie silver glow. Every human in the colony was in position, every weapon readied, every trap set. Today, the Queen herself, she had arrived. Eli felt a surge of energy pulse through the artifact hidden in the ruins. It was as if it recognized the significance of this moment. His heartbeat matched its rhythm, steady but intense. He knew that what awaited was more than a battle. It was a test of humanity's will, intelligence, and courage. He turned to Mara, who stood beside him, her eyes unwavering despite the tension. "We can do this," he said. "We fight smart and we fight together." "We can show her what humans are capable of." Mara nodded, her voice firm. "We trust you, Eli. Lead us." The fleet descended in perfect formation, energy beams slicing through the night air, turning dunes to molten sand. The humans held their ground, and Eli's mind worked faster than ever. He directed the placement of drones, the firing of energy pulses, and the activation of hidden traps in the dunes. Every move was calculated yet fluid, a dance of strategy and instinct. From her flagship, Zyra, she watched with cold precision. She had expected humans to be clever, but she had underestimated the depth of their ingenuity. Eli was no longer just a boy from a colony. He was a strategist, a leader, a force that challenged her authority and pride. Her warriors moved as one, but the unpredictability of humans frustrated even the most disciplined alien soldiers. Eli signaled to a team of engineers. Activate the dunes, energy grid. Focus on their navigation systems. Sparks flew as machines hidden beneath the sand roared to life, sending pulses that disrupted the enemy ship's sensors. One by one, their formations faltered. Energy beams collided, scattering across the dunes like lightning in a storm. The humans advanced, moving between dunes, their silhouettes shadowed by the moonlight. Eli led the charge, dodging blasts, guiding his team and striking with precision. Every alien scout that tried to flank them was caught in a trap or driven back by coordinated attacks. Humans had no chance in direct combat, but Eli turned their weakness into strength. He had learned to fight not like the Queen expected, but like humanity had always fought, with ingenuity, courage, and unity. Then, at the center of the battlefield, the Queen herself appeared. Zyra, she stepped from her flagship, her form towering and regal, her eyes glowing with power. Energy radiated from her, bending the light and air around her. Her warriors hesitated, sensing the command and strength she exuded. Eli felt the artifact hum stronger in response to her presence. This was no ordinary opponent. This was a ruler whose name had caused entire civilizations to surrender, yet she trembled at the potential of what humanity had become. Eli raised his hands, signaling his team to hold back. He needed to face her not just as a warrior, but as a symbol. "Zyra," he shouted across the battlefield, "I am Eli of Violia. We will not surrender and we will not fall." His voice carried over the dunes, filled with determination. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "So this is the human they call the Spark. You dare challenge me, child?" Her voice was like ice, yet her gaze betrayed the hint of respect and fear that Eli had already earned. "I have seen empires crumble at my command. You are nothing." Eli did not flinch. "Nothing? You think that strength alone rules the galaxy? Humans survive because we adapt, because we fight together, and because we never give up. I may be one, but I carry the courage of all humanity." With a wave of her hand, Zyra summoned energy tendrils, lashing across the battlefield, scattering drones and hurling soldiers aside. The humans scrambled, yet Eli moved with unmatched agility. He dodged the tendrils, guiding his team, and activated the ruins' hidden machinery. Energy fields rose from the sand, intercepting the Queen's attacks. Sparks of power collided in midair, illuminating the battlefield with violent light. The Queen moved closer, her steps heavy yet elegant, her energy forming a shield that no ordinary weapon could pierce. Eli studied her, noticing the rhythm of her movements, the pattern in her attacks. He realized that she relied heavily on psychic coordination with her fleet. If he could disrupt that connection, even temporarily, he could create an opening. "Now," he whispered to his team. Engineers activated a series of synchronized pulses across the dunes, sending feedback waves into the alien fleet. Sensors flickered and ships wobbled. Zyra, she roared, sensing the disruption. Her focus split between controlling the fleet and confronting Eli, leaving her vulnerable. Eli seized the moment. He charged across open sand, dodging energy blasts and leaping over obstacles. His team followed, providing cover. At the Queen's feet, he activated a device from the ruins, sending a concentrated energy pulse directly toward her shield. Sparks flew as the energy met resistance, then pushed through, striking her shield with force. The Queen staggered, momentarily caught off guard. Eli did not hesitate. He moved closer, striking precise points with energy blasts that exploited the weaknesses he had observed. The artifact within him pulsed, guiding his actions, feeding him knowledge that centuries of humans had left behind. Zyra, she raised her hands, attempting to summon a devastating wave of energy. Eli anticipated the move. He rolled to the side, using a dune for cover, and sent a counterpulse that disrupted her energy flow. The wave faltered, scattering harmlessly into the sand. For the first time, the Queen was forced to retreat, her eyes blazing with fury and disbelief. The battlefield fell silent for a brief moment. Humans stared in awe at what they had witnessed. Eli stood tall, his chest heaving, the glow of the artifact reflecting in his eyes. He had faced the most feared being in the galaxy and survived, not by sheer strength, but by strategy, courage, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. Zyra, she raised her hands once more, summoning her fleet for a retreat. Her warriors carried her back to the flagship, and the fleet lifted off, leaving behind scorched dunes and a colony filled with awe and relief. She looked down at the battlefield one last time, her expression unreadable. She had underestimated humans, and Eli had proven her fears were justified. The humans of Violia erupted in celebration, yet Eli did not immediately join them. He walked through the dunes, checking on his team, ensuring that the wounded were safe, and that defenses remained operational. Every life mattered, and every contribution had been crucial. He understood that victory was not just about defeating a powerful enemy. It was about protecting humanity and ensuring they could rise again. Mara approached him, her face alight with relief and pride. "You did it, Eli. You actually did it. The Queen has retreated." Eli shook his head, still scanning the horizon. "Today we survived, but she will return. We have bought time, and we have proven that humans can stand against her. That is what matters. The next time we will be even stronger." The artifact pulsed warmly in his hands. Eli placed it gently against the sand, feeling its energy resonate with his own. He understood that it had chosen him for this purpose, not just to fight, but to lead, to teach, and to unite humanity against threats far greater than they had ever imagined. As the night deepened, Eli climbed once more to the ridge, gazing at the stars above. Somewhere out there, the Queen plotted her return, but he was ready. He had learned her patterns, her strengths, and her weaknesses. He had united his people, inspired courage, and proven that intelligence and adaptability could overcome even the greatest might. The colony slept beneath the twin moons, safe for now. Eli stayed awake, his thoughts alive with strategy, training, and visions of the battles yet to come. He knew the Queen's fury would not rest, but neither would humanity's spirit. In the quiet, Eli whispered to himself, almost as a promise, "We are humans. We adapt, we endure, and we fight. And no one, not even the strongest queen in the galaxy, can stop us when we stand together." The desert wind carried his words across the dunes, and somewhere in the dark expanse of space, Zyra, she trembled, not with fear, but with the realization that a new force had awakened. One human had sparked a change that could alter the course of empires. And that human was Eli. The artifact glowed brighter as if acknowledging his promise. Eli looked out at the horizon, at the stars beyond, and felt the weight of destiny settle upon him. He was no longer just a boy from a small colony. He was a leader, a strategist, and a symbol. Humanity's legend had begun, and the galaxy would never forget the name of the human who had made the alien queen tremble. The dawn over Violia was calm, almost serene, yet Eli, he knew the calm was temporary. The alien queen, Zyra, she had retreated after their last confrontation, but the fleet still lingered near the edge of the system. Their presence was a reminder that humanity had survived, not by luck, but through courage, ingenuity, and unity. Eli walked among the colony, observing the people preparing for whatever might come next. Soldiers repaired drones, engineers reinforced energy shields, and civilians carried supplies to reinforce defensive positions. Every hand contributed, and every person had a purpose. Eli's eyes settled on the ruins, the source of the artifact's energy that had guided him through the past battles. He could still feel its hum against his chest, steady and reassuring. It had chosen him not to conquer, but to awaken the courage and intelligence already present in humanity. He understood now that leadership was not just about giving orders. It was about inspiring people to believe in themselves, to find strength they did not know they had. Mara, she approached, carrying a data pad filled with reports from scouts and field teams. "Eli," she said, her voice calm but filled with gravity, "we have confirmed that the Queen's fleet is regrouping near the edge of the system. They are repairing, resupplying, and preparing for another strike. But they are also slower now. They underestimated us before, and that delay gives us an opportunity." Eli nodded, scanning the horizon where the faint silhouettes of alien ships glimmered against the starlight. "We've learned their patterns, we've adapted. Now it's time to take the fight to them, not just defend Violia. Humanity cannot wait for survival. We must secure our place in the stars." He called a council meeting with the colony's leaders and key fighters. "We strike tonight," he said firmly. "Our target is their repair station in orbit around the nearby asteroid belt. It is lightly guarded compared to the main fleet, but it holds vital supplies and technology. If we take it out, we slow the Queen's preparations and prove that humans can fight offensively as well as defensively." The council nodded, understanding the risks. A direct strike against alien technology was dangerous, but Eli's planning gave them hope. They had rehearsed every move, studied the terrain, and understood the enemy's tactics. Every soldier, engineer, and volunteer knew their role. This was not a desperate attack. It was a calculated strike, led by a human whose courage and intelligence had already shaken the alien queen. Night fell, and Eli led the fleet of modified human ships toward the asteroid belt. The desert below Violia seemed peaceful, unaware of the conflict unfolding in the darkness above. Humans moved silently and efficiently, every ship in formation, every crew member focused. Eli's heart beat in rhythm with the artifact's energy, guiding him, alerting him to dangers, and filling him with knowledge that had once seemed impossible. They arrived at the asteroid belt, where the alien repair station loomed like a shadow against the stars. Guards patrolled the perimeter, energy beams crisscrossing in patterns designed to catch intruders. Eli studied the layout, noting weak points, blind spots, and the best paths for approach. "Stick to the plan," he said over the communicator. "No heroics. We strike as one, and we strike smart." The attack began with precision. Human ships weaved between asteroids, avoiding patrols and detection. Engineers sent pulses to disrupt the station's sensors, while fighters created diversions to draw attention. Eli piloted his craft directly toward the station, calculating trajectories and energy outputs with exacting focus. A single mistake could alert the Queen's fleet, but humans had prepared for this moment, and every move reflected their ingenuity. As they reached the station, Eli deployed the primary assault team. Soldiers and engineers boarded the structure, moving quickly and quietly through corridors filled with alien technology. The humans worked with synchronized efficiency, disabling defense systems and securing critical areas. Eli's presence was everywhere, guiding, protecting, and inspiring. His voice over the communicator carried calm authority, keeping everyone focused even as alarms began to blare. Zyra, she sensed the intrusion from orbit, her energy rippling through the psychic network connecting her fleet. "Find them," she commanded, her tone sharp but controlled. "Do not underestimate humans again. That boy, that spark, is dangerous." Eli anticipated her response. He had studied her patterns, her reliance on psychic links, and her overconfidence in her fleet. Humans had turned weaknesses into strength before, and now was no exception. He directed teams to disrupt communication nodes, sending feedback pulses that scrambled her sensors. Ships faltered in orbit, confused by sudden interference, and her soldiers struggled to respond. Inside the station, humans moved like shadows, dismantling weapons, securing supplies, and sending back critical data. Eli activated a containment pulse in the central chamber, destabilizing the station's core. The energy beams flickered, alarms grew louder, and the alien forces scrambled. Yet humans continued undeterred, their coordination precise and their courage unwavering. The Queen realized her advantage slipping and descended herself to the station in a transport pod. Her form was imposing, radiating energy and authority. She landed in the central chamber, her presence dominating the room. Soldiers froze, sensing her power, but Eli did not waver. He stepped forward, standing between the Queen and his team. "You again," she hissed, her voice echoing in the chamber. "You dare challenge me in my own station?" Eli, he met her gaze steadily. "We are humans. We survive, we adapt, and we fight. You underestimated us before, not again." Energy erupted around the Queen as she attacked, her tendrils of power lashing across the chamber. Eli dodged with precision, signaling his team to activate shields and countermeasures. Humans moved in perfect synchronization, striking weak points in her defenses, exploiting patterns in her attacks. Each move was calculated, each action reinforcing the other. The battle raged, lights flashing, energy sparking, and sand-like dust falling from the station walls. Humans fought with courage and ingenuity, turning the alien technology against its own defenders. Eli's leadership inspired every soldier, engineer, and volunteer. They were not merely defending. They were showing the Queen the strength of humanity's mind and spirit. Finally, Eli saw the opening he had been waiting for. Zyra, she had overextended, relying on her psychic network to coordinate a massive energy strike. Eli activated the artifact, channeling its energy into a precise pulse aimed at disrupting her coordination. The Queen staggered, her shield flickering, and her tendrils of energy faltered. Seizing the moment, Eli directed a team to secure the Queen's control core in the station. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and energy pulses collided with shields. The Queen tried to regain control, but the humans were relentless. With one final coordinated strike, the core was destabilized, sending a shockwave through the station. Zyra, she roared, staggering back as her energy faltered. Her transport pod called for extraction, but she hesitated, assessing the humans before her. Eli stepped closer, unwavering. "This is your warning," he said. "Humanity is not weak. We survive, we adapt, and we will fight for our place in the galaxy. You can leave, or you can face the consequences." For the first time, the Queen hesitated. Her pride and authority clashed with the reality of what humans had accomplished. She realized that they were unpredictable, intelligent, and courageous, qualities that even her fleet could not fully control. Finally, with a roar that shook the chamber, she retreated, her fleet following in withdrawal. The station was damaged but secure in human hands. Eli's team exhaled collectively, exhausted but triumphant. The humans had not only survived, but had struck a decisive blow. They had proven that even the mightiest enemy could be challenged with courage, intelligence, and unity. Eli moved among them, helping repair damages, checking on the wounded, and offering encouragement. He did not celebrate alone, for the victory belonged to all who had stood together. Back on Violia, Mara, she addressed the colony. "Tonight we have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of. We have faced impossible odds and we have triumphed. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter for humanity." Eli stood among them, watching the celebrations. He understood that this was only the start. The galaxy was vast, and many threats remained. Yet humanity had proven a truth that could not be ignored. Intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome even the most powerful empire. As the twin moons rose over the dunes, Eli returned to the ruins. The artifact pulsed warmly, acknowledging the humans' victory. He placed his hand upon it, feeling centuries of knowledge and wisdom flowing into him. He saw visions of future battles, alliances, and discoveries. Humanity's story was just beginning, and he would guide them not as a conqueror but as a leader, teacher, and protector. In the distance, beyond the stars, Zyra, she watched silently. Her fleet had been repelled, her authority challenged, and her pride wounded. Yet she was not defeated. She had learned something important. Humans were not weak, predictable, or disposable. One human had awakened a force she could not ignore, a force of courage, intelligence, and determination that could grow to rival even the mightiest empire. Eli looked to the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility and the promise of the future. Humanity had survived, adapted, and triumphed against impossible odds. The deserts of Violia seemed calm again, but Eli knew the galaxy was watching, and humanity's place among the stars was now secured. The artifact's glow faded slightly, but its energy remained within him, a reminder of the legacy he carried. Eli, he understood that leadership was not just about battle. It was about inspiration, unity, and hope. Humanity's spark had ignited, and the stars themselves would remember the day when a single human rose to challenge an empire and made the alien queen tremble. The colony cheered, the fires of victory casting long shadows across the dunes. Eli walked among his people, humble yet proud. He knew that this was more than survival. It was proof of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and unity met opportunity. He gazed at the horizon where the galaxy stretched endlessly and whispered a promise to himself and to his people. "We are humans. We endure, we adapt, and we rise. And no force, no empire can ever stop us when we stand together." As the night deepened, the twin moons reflected off the ruins and the sand, casting a serene glow over a colony that had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Eli stood atop the highest dune, looking at the stars, knowing that humanity's legend had only begun. The alien queen may return one day, but humanity would be ready. Together, they had proven the impossible was possible. Violia was quiet, yet alive with energy, hope, and determination. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a spark that would grow into a beacon, a force to be reckoned with. Eli's heart swelled with pride and responsibility. He had led his people, inspired them, and faced the most feared queen in the galaxy. Humanity had survived, and in that survival they had become legendary. The desert wind whispered through the ruins, carrying Eli's words across the dunes. "We are humans. We adapt, we endure, and we fight, and the stars will remember our courage." Above, in the quiet reaches of space, the alien queen's fleet retreated, thoughtful and wary. The human who had risen from a small colony had done what no one else had. He had united his people, defied an empire, and proven that humanity's spirit was unstoppable. And for Eli, the boy who had discovered the ruins and awakened the artifact, the future stretched endlessly ahead, full of challenges, victories, and a legacy that would echo across the galaxy.